Alright, so what we have here is a head and shoulders pattern. What we want to find right at this point is different points of entry. I want to show you where you could have entered this pattern. So, say that, hold on. Actually, yeah, let me screenshot this. None of this existed right here. At this point, you had a wedge. So, knowing that it was just a wedge, you could have just waited for it to break. So, in reality, you could have entered there. Or on a lower time frame, you could have caught it at the top of the pattern. Or from right here, when it broke down here, you could have caught that retracement, which is why I lined that spot right there. So we'll erase some of this. So technically, you could have entered there. You could have entered there. It dropped. It came back. You could have technically entered there if you wanted to. Dropped. It came back. But here's the why. So you see this line that I have here. So what do we remember from support and resistance? So since it broke this structure, we're looking for a retestment of the structure of two parts of this structure. It can bounce off the pattern or off the middle of the M. So remember, yes, this is a head and shoulders, but this is also an M pattern. Just to clear that up, make it easier to see. So we could have entered here, here, after it, when it broke down. If you didn't see a pattern or any reason for it to enter here, then that's where you would enter up there, where it broke up and retested everything. So then down here, you could have had an entry down here because this was also a wedge. Well, on here it shows a triangle, but on the lower time frame, it was actually a wedge that broke up, which created a wedge on the higher time frame, which is what you see on the white line. So this is a rising wedge. So what happened right here? Yes, this was a stop hunt. It broke out of the structure of the wedge. It wanted to accumulate contracts. So two ways that we knew that it wasn't a buy. It did not exceed this zone at all, for one. Well, it could exceed it if it had room to do that. But one, it didn't exceed it. Two, it didn't close beyond this point. Three, it didn't close beyond this point. It literally, yes, you could have entered around here, but you could have also entered here because it broke the structure, then came back down and closed in the structure again. It closed inside of the structure. It consolidated a bit. So you had 12 hours of time to really enter this point. So you had plenty of time. You could have entered here, or when it finally broke the structure, you could have entered right there and got some pips. So, how many opportunities did we really have? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different opportunities to enter this trade. To clean it up, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up for you guys because we can actually see the head and shoulders. It's an M also and a wedge. So yeah, patterns create other patterns. Wedges, rising wedges can create head and shoulders patterns, and it can do like a M as like a retestment or create it inside the structure, or yeah, what pretty much what you see here. But overall, you could have entered at these points for the head and shoulders. You could have entered there, there, or there. Technically, you could have entered in here too, but there was more risk in that area. Unless you spotted a pattern inside. If you found like a reason to enter this area when it dropped, then you could. But I'm pretty sure there actually was a pattern, like a triangle or a flag or a wedge signaling the drop in that area. So technically, you could have said, well, in all honesty, I wouldn't have. There was no reason to enter here. That would have been a higher risk entry, but the easier entries were this point, this point, this point, this point, and yeah, these points. If you know how to recognize the patterns. So at that point, we're looking for the pattern, retestments, stop hunts to give us that signal. We can enter in on the stop hunt, especially if it's not breaking the retestment. It doesn't exceed the zone and close outside of the zone that we're looking at or the pattern, because that further confirms that drop that or rise that we're looking for. In this case, it confirmed the drop. And now, in this case, because it's Thursday, what could really happen is it could come back to this area because it pushed so incredibly strongly and retest that pattern and fall again and just do one of these numbers. So we're just building the pattern all over again. It's not just going to go down just that easily. We know it's going to go, it's going to something like that. Literally repeat what happened on the left side, but not as easily. And to see it a bit easier, I'll show you EU. EU, it's a bit more perfect. I wouldn't have entered it right here, but overall, you got a triangle. That's the beginning of a shoulder. And head, a higher shoulder, but it broke down and then wedged up. And at some point, it did have a large stop hunt, and it broke down really hard. It wasn't as aggressive as GU, but it was pretty simple. Kind of a weird wedge, but it broke up. They're not always perfect, sometimes they're a bit weird. But yeah, it was a Head and Shoulders. It came back and retested, so that would have been your perfect entry right there. So if you didn't catch it here, you could have entered here for the sell. You could have caught the wedge candlestick reversal. Or if you noticed that it was a stop hunt and it was closing down again on a structure, you could have rode it down again. Or if it passed, if you let the opportunity pass and it came back, just catch it right there, right on the neckline.